Hello and welcome to Welcome Home Radio with your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy. Luckily, Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, here are your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm.
And welcome to Welcome Home Radio, your real estate lending and learning professionals. And of course, that's Real Estate with Alan Pace of SWR Group, Keller Williams, lending with your DD 214 alumni lender Blair Thomas, and of course, learning with our own very Professor Tom Hume with Champion School of Real Estate. What's going on March 18th on your Today Mortgage Minute? I want to give you some insight on what's happening in the world of finance and mortgage-backed securities. With all the concern and uncertainty in the news, I'm going to try to let you know what is happening in the financial world so you can make very informed decisions. Stock ended the day yesterday high on a wild ride. Stocks started up roughly 500 and closed at 1,049. The S&P closed up 143, and mortgage bonds ended slightly lower, but yields are up at a whopping 34 bips at 1.0406%.
That'll break the bank.
What propelled stocks higher was the suggestion that President Trump, and I'm hearing some music, I'm sorry. What propelled stocks higher were suggestions from President Trump that they were entertaining a $1 trillion stimulus package.
I like background music.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
It's kind of,
Details are sparse on this. The government's considering directly sending checks to Americans in the next 2 weeks. They also added to corporations they were able to defer tax payments up to $10 million, and individuals up to $1 million to the IRS. Last week we saw a 3-day period.
Defer what again?
Deferred tax payments.
Well, filing your taxes.
Yes, actually paying and filing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can we get rid of that music in the background? It is very loud in my head.
Would you like me to
what music is not loud in your head?
That's Alan. Alan, please take your music down. Thank you. Last week we saw over
I don't have any music.
Okay, there it's gone anyway. So last week we saw a 3-day period mortgage-backed securities loss. From March 10th to the 13th, we had a drop of interest rates of 223 bips. The last time we saw something at this level of 176 was September of 2019 over a 5-day period. So this was quite dramatic. Second, the Fed had an emergency meeting over the weekend to respond to many critical issues they face with the slowing of businesses and complete stoppage of schools, childcare, etc. The outcome of that meeting was threefold. One, the stoppage of the stress test for the banks holding 10% back required by Dodd-Frank. This allows banks to not have to maintain a 10% liquidity for all their mortgage backs on the books. Two, a stimulus package that developed $700 billion to hit the market Monday morning, $500 billion to T-bills, which is the stock market, and $200 billion to bonds, which is mortgage-backed securities. This will help prop up the stock market and hold rates at a low for the short term. And the Fed finally committed for all existing mortgages that are either paid off or refinanced from them, they will go right back into the bond program. So that's roughly a $200 billion additional commitment by the Fed to the bond market. With all this said, we are still at industry lows in dealing with interest rates and still a good time to purchase a home, refinance your existing. There's also debt consolidation to be considered as well. Purchases will have the priority over refis to keep from churning existing loans, and you will see rates slightly higher in refis rather than purchases, as well as a delay in the processing. I hope this gives you an insight to what the Mortgage Minute, and if you have questions today, please call in 877-337-5844. Guys, how are y'all doing today? I know Alan's keeping his distance from us. We got some more background music again.
Yeah, and it's not me, but I am keeping my distance. But you guys are looking good. I see you on Facebook, and just wanted to let you know that was good information you shared with a lot of us on the financing part of it a couple of days ago. I shared it with my Facebook friends on rates and what everything the Fed's doing means.
Yep. Well, I'm going to try to
uh,
do that every Monday now on a video via Facebook and YouTube. So give you an update for it. But it's we're right now in such a challenging time. Everybody's trying to look around the corners, trying to see what to do, get in, get out, buy now, buy then. And the markets are changing, and so many people think that with the Fed going to zero, my goodness, that means interest rates are great. I mean, Tom, come on, that makes sense.
Oh
yeah. But are you done playing with your music machine over there?
Well, I'm trying to figure out exactly why my machine is putting music into the system. That I'm not this technology freak.
If you're watching online, you can see a big question mark above his head.
Clear it up. But along the lines.
Well, funny enough, go ahead.
Along the lines of answering, the question about, the Fed and the Federal Reserve and stuff like that, financing and the way the slowdown is going to happen with regards to the coronavirus and the things that we're experiencing out there is more dramatic than we've ever seen, in our lifetime. And as such, there are some extraordinary measures that are being taken along these lines. Really, those extraordinary measures, it's the question becomes, how do we end up paying for this in the long run? The Federal Reserve's changing their interest rate to zero only affects big companies, so it doesn't affect us in the mortgage field at all. Now,
let's take that a step further, make sure people understand. That's the borrowing interest rate that banks borrow from the Fed,
correct,
to loan out to large companies like GE, AT&T, and other organizations that borrow from those banks.
It's also the rate that is charged to member banks, and the Federal Reserve, again, is not a government situation as far as it's not a government entity.
Yes.
So we just understand that it's not a government entity at all. It is owned by member banks who participate. I swear I've undone everything.
Might try turning it off.
Well, boy, there you go.
Let the child not play anymore.
I wasn't playing with anything.
We'll figure it out at break.
Okay, but
well,
go
ahead on that explanation. That was a good one.
And part of this is to understand that the Federal Reserve loans to member banks, and member banks borrow overnight to hold money if there is a run on a bank. And this wavering of the 10% rule still is not necessarily a good thing, because what that does is says to people, we're taking off all the stops if there's a panic, a true panic.
Yeah.
I mean, besides toilet paper panics. And financial panics is something that we could still fit into this mix as everything comes down to nuts and bolts. You're absolutely correct, though, that the mortgage market itself, the demand and supply, the way they price bonds is the lowest it's ever been as well.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this all feeds into something 6 months from now or a year from now. What did we do to ourselves?
Well, and oddly enough, all through this, I've seen as a realtor, I've seen an uptick in my business just in the last week.
More selling?
And I've got, buyers out there and sellers, but people, I don't think the people are thinking this is the end of the world yet, although, like you said, Tom, anything can change, but at any time. But in the meantime, people are going about their business, and even though their 401ks are down, but you got to remember also a lot of the younger folks just starting out don't have big 401ks yet. They're still trying to buy their first home, and they get down payment assistance, or we make it work, with Blair or something like that. But I've got a lot of young people that I'm working with all of a sudden, and it's just funny how sometimes the bad brings out some good. And in general, as a realtor who went through the 2007, 8, 9, 10 fiasco, made it through there just fine. And I think real estate's one of those businesses that is, unless there is a mass, panic or whatever, I don't think that it's going to remain healthy, in my opinion, at least in Dallas, Fort Worth.
Well, I think we can say that, if in Tom's lifetime, we have not seen anybody stopping to buy or sell a mortgage, a home, and you've seen them I've seen them 12, 13% interest. Sure. Now we're seeing them at very reasonable 4, 5, 6, and now we're at the lowest that we've seen in the industry again. That is just unbelievable. There's great opportunity for people, but they have to understand what's going on right now. The churn is that we're still seeing uptick in applications, but 75% of them are refinances, not new home purchases.
Correct.
And so the challenge is, are they doing debt consolidation? Are they doing rate and term refinances? What are they attempting to do? And again, and I say the term churn, can you help our listeners, Tom, understand what churn means and why purchase loan applications are going to take priority over refinance application because of that churn? And that churn is really not because of a business can't handle the numbers. It's really because investors don't want to churn loans. And I love this explanation to understand investors can drive a lot of this because they don't want to, hey, I had just had a loan at 4.5% and you want me to refinance at 3.25%, and who loses the money? And that investor ultimately is the one, or they pay less to the service provider. Am I correcting on some of this, or am I not explaining? Help our listeners understand what we mean by churn, please.
Well, the churning aspect of taking somebody who has recently refinanced, and recent is a perspective on the investor's side that they observe. In other words, an investor wants to keep a loan at least 6 months to break even on the premium they paid in order to get that loan. So if you're out there refinancing your mortgage after 6 months or before 6 months even, it has a negative result for the investors and them wanting to not be in the market anymore. Thusly, the Fed has stepped up and said, well, we'll buy those securities now, which again gets us back to recession days of 2007, 2008, yep. 2009. And that's an interesting perspective that they've already said they're going to buy $50 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities at these lower rates in order to allow the industry to, and it's good for the consumer. I'm not griping about the consumers getting a lower rate so they have less to pay. It just creates a tumbling effect that when the term churning is used, it's a reference to these mortgages that were done very recently now go away, and that's a negative effect on investors in the marketplace who would want to buy these, and plus they're going to lose money by refinancing or paying off their mortgage with another refinance.
Yes.
They're going to lose money.
The investor.
So,
and that's what I want to make sure people understand is that refinances are going to be slightly higher at interest rates than a purchase.
Correct.
Because a purchase is a brand new loan. It's a brand new. If you're downsizing, if you're right sizing, whatever you may be doing, that's the sell of one home with our wonderful Alan, and then a purchase with a new. That's a new investor. That's something new. You're going to get the best interest rate out there. But a refinance, meaning you're staying in place, you're not going to get the best interest rate. And understand also the processing for that is going to be a little bit slower, and most entities are going to
deprioritize.
There you go. Deprioritize those things. And plus,
so Blair, I got a question for you, bud.
Yeah.
Is it because of the refi business, and when you get a new purchase, let's say an application, so a realtor typically will give a lender 30 days to get the money. Okay, we'll add 30 days.
Go through the loan process, yes.
So does that have to be extended a little bit due to all the refi, or is that unaffected?
No, like I said, priority goes to any purchases. So any new mortgage that is coming into the system, a purchase, is considered priority. And right now we're doing them between 24 and 30 days easily. We have designated days that we target for refis to close on between generally the 6th day of the month through the 15th. And that means anything from the month prior is targeted towards. So it's roughly you're looking at a 30 to a 45-day turn for refis, sometimes even higher depending on if it takes longer for payoffs and what people want to try to do. And, we're going to try to see if what we're going to float a while for the rate, or there's many things that impact, but it's not going to be in a priority scale compared to a purchase.
Okay, good.
Does that helps out? So,
yeah, it does. Other realtors have, we've talked about it, and, what the heck, we're on the show today. It's what you do, so I wanted to ask.
There you go. Well, if you have questions, we've got, again, we're here for real estate, lending, and learning. Call in at 877-337-5844 with any questions that you may have about market stance, what's going on, or you can even, as you follow us on Facebook Live or YouTube at KVGI Media, you can write in your question. We'll try to get to it as soon as possible. Again, some of us are much older than others, so we don't know all the technology here. But we are dealing with a crisis across our nation. We're seeing closing of businesses, closing of school districts and or child care that requires people to work from home, and or I see school districts, my wife working in one is trying to figure out how to distance learning in a week. They're trying to get things situated very quickly just to be able to get some classes going so that students can stay home. And I'm going to have to lean toward more. This is an unbelievable time, an opportunity to help kids understand wash your hands 101 and dishwashing 102 and doing your own laundry, cleaning your room 103, or AP classes on doing the yard or other things. I mean, this is some of the opportunities we see here. Our grandkids coming over, we're spending a little more time with them on helping how to clean up toys and a lot less TV. So I hope Netflix is off and family time is taking a priority for you and your household. Comments, questions. I mean, we're also trying to rebrand and make sure everybody understands our Welcome Home Radio is here for education. We are here to help you understand what it means in the real estate, the lending, and or learning world of that. So please take time if you have questions, whether it be USDA, VA, FHA, or conventional, even down payment assistance programs and or non-QM or non-qualified mortgages. We would love to talk with you, answer any questions for that. We're going to go to break here. Stay tuned. We're talking more about today's environment in our financial world. We'll be right back.
3, 2, 1. KVGIRadio.com.
Y'all have really just opened my bubble and just...
KVGI Radio brings you conversation and entertainment. Be sure to follow us on social media. Who streams the best talk shows? We do.
listening to KVGIRadio.com. Streaming live from the KVGI studios in Frisco, Texas. Live without limits.
It doesn't match up with the radio.
Hello and welcome to Welcome Home Radio with your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy. Luckily, Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, here are your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm.
Welcome back to Welcome Home Radio, March 18th, your real estate lending and learning professionals. We are talking about the mortgage market minute and what's going on nowadays. And the bottom line, I think, the summary of all of this is that we still are at industry lows for purchasing, refinancing, or even I would hope people would consider debt consolidation. And I think that's one of the missed things on this, Tom, is that there is a way for us to consolidate some debt, take some equity out of your home, pay off those higher interest rates, whether they be student loans, credit cards, automobiles, all of these things, and put it into a lower interest investment, which is your mortgage. Would you agree with this? Is this something that I think a lot of people should be considering?
I would only do that if you promise me that you're going to play some music for me.
Okay. Well, you got that taken care of.
I'm only going to do that if you promise me you're going to throw away the credit cards. It doesn't help you at all to go ahead and get back in the same cycle by paying it, getting a 3%, 2% consolidation loan, and then to keep your credit cards. This is the challenge that, lots of folks run into, is that they use that house, they use their home equity. Homes have gone up in value, so why not use it? Well, it's got a legitimate point in that, yeah, if I'm handling and taking care of debt for one time and getting done with it, so that I don't have that debt again, and then drive my car until the tires fall off and never use the credit card at all, I'm good with that. But the people that go out there and use their house as a mobile credit card to refinance their couch that they bought. I got it on sale. It was a great sale. Well, now you refinance it for 30 years. I guarantee you just double the cost of that couch on sale when you refinance it for 30 years.
Years ago, it used to be you could refi in Texas, but you had to use it for home improvement. That I don't know what year it was. That did change where you could just get the money out of your house. What's that?
1997.
That's when the law was passed. It was effective in 1998.
Is that when the A6 became around?
When the constitutional amendment A6 was passed in the
and that means for our listeners, it is in Texas A6 or cash out refinance, where you can actually take cash out of your home and utilize that equity for whatever your heart desires.
And that's back to Tom's point. I agree 100% with Tom. If you're going to use it for the right reasons, I guess it's your own house. Your reasons are your right reasons. But when you're talking about financial responsibility,
Okay, but talk about financial responsibility.
Well, and I wanted to bring that up because I think a lot of people are, okay, I want to refinance my mortgage. I want to maybe get a rate or term. If you're at 25 years and you can get to 15 years with a lower rate and pay the same amount, or there's a lot of good reasons for looking at refinancing. But debt consolidation for those that are in trouble, like you say, as a one-time solution, I think it's something that should be looked at if you have equity in your home. And, that gets into a lot of other things as folks get older, looking at refinancing. I'm seeing some of those as well. But also in this time, I mean, purchasing is not, it is still 25 to 20 to 30% of our market. We need to be available or aware of, hey, somebody's going to be out there downsizing or right-sizing for them. That may be upsizing in some cases, downsizing for others. You can sell and purchase your home and get a very good rate, whether it be the conventional FHA, VA, or even USDA world. Those are all programs available. Those are all programs that are here. The challenge, I think, and we brought it up at break, Alan brought it up. He says, have you been running into folks concerned about losing their job or changes? Well, that is a critical piece. As you look at a mortgage, there are 4 critical things that we look at in a mortgage. The fourth one is the one until you have the collateral, which is the home itself, we're not going to worry about. That will come at a later time once you get the contract. But the things to pre-qualify, to pre-approve you, are 3 basic things I call credit qualifying, income stability, asset affordability. Those are the 3 things we look at. Would you agree that's a pretty good overview, Mr. Instructor?
Sure.
Sure. You're either disagreeing or agreeing. I don't know which now.
I like it.
You like it? Okay, good. So right off the bat, credit qualifying means, do you have credit scores that qualify you for the types of mortgages or the mortgage you're looking for? That could be USDA, VA, conventional, FHA, whatever the necessity. So the bottom line is, not only do we look at credit scores, but we look at things like stability in where you've been, what are the names you're using, what are all the AKAs that they're called, like Tom is called Caveman Plus or anything.
Or Susan on the weekends.
Susan on the weekends, there you go. And
that's why this is the weekday show.
But we're looking at a full credit qualifying to make sure other lenders, what you're doing with that and how you're paying those off. Have you made your commitments? Have you substantiated, continual good payments history? Second, we look at, after credit qualifying, we look at income stability. Now, this comes into an interesting view that most people don't understand. Income stability is a 2 years history to 3 years future. Is that correct, Tom?
2-3 rule.
2-3 rule.
Yes, sir.
So we look at 2 years history. We want consistency of job. We want consistency of types of industry. We want consistency of things that are happening, and we love it in a W-2 world because it's pretty stable more as opposed to a 1099, okay? So it does not mean you can have multiple jobs in a 2-year pattern. It could be showing a 2-year pattern of growth in your industry, and you get increase in different performances in different level jobs with different companies. But an inconsistency is changing out. I was at restaurant food chains initially, and then all of a sudden I went to hairstyle salons, and then I'm in the stocking of Costco or Amazon. That's a difficult stability to work with. The other one that's very difficult that most people don't understand is when they go from W-2 to 1099. Can you help our listeners, Tom, to understand that transition and why it's difficult? If it was the inverse, 1099 to W-2, it's easier. So help our listeners understand that.
Well, 1099 employs that, of course, you're self-employed. You're an independent contractor of some sort. So as a 1099 income comes in, just like being and owning my own company, we're going to have 2 years of history we want to see. So if I was self-employed, we'd look at 2 years of tax returns, and we'd look at the company's 2 years of tax returns. If I'm 1099 and on a contract basis, we'd look at the last 2 years of history and the tax returns reflecting what expenses were you writing off against that 1099 income. So those situations create always this 2-year history that's pretty firm, set in stone, with regards to being of that receiving income of that nature. Now there are some subprime programs or non-qualified mortgage programs that are existing now that will allow us to go with a shorter period of time, but you're talking higher interest rates, and so that's not really perfect.
And larger down payments.
And larger down payments.
So understanding that to get that income stability established, and now it also means you could have a secondary job, but you have to have sustained it for 2 years. You can't, I just started working at Amazon and I'd like to add, that will not qualify into the calculations for purchasing a home until you have a 2-year history. Tendency is not, secondary jobs are not flexible as a primary income because you're not as committed to it. You have to show a sustainability of that through a 2-year commitment. Now, 1099 employees, hey, we congratulate you. This is what makes America great. You're independent. You're out there working the job the way you want, and you're getting paid to do it. You just need to show us a 2-year tax return history. What do you discount? I got to tell you, the first time I was in this industry, and I thought I hit it big with truckers. Man, it was great. I thought, my goodness, look at these guys. They make $375,000 driving all over the country. The problem is they show on their tax returns they make $28,000 because of all the write-offs that they can have. So what you're reporting to the IRS is the income base of what we will use as a 1099. Therefore, we have to have 2 years history of income tax. There are ways that we can go with 1 year, but there is no way we can go with less than 1 year tax return minimally, and a cash flow statement and or P&L from your business to show that it's sustainable. But the bottom line is that's what we're looking at as we talk 1099. One of the very first questions, are you self-employed or are you not? That's an application question. If it's not marked, we tend to look at that. But what is the reason why a W-2 is so much easier, Tom? Help our listeners understand when we say W-2, what is it behind that W-2 that helps us create that stability?
Well, up until the last 2 weeks, the W-2 would imply that you've been with the company and that they are you're a full-time employee. We can easily extract from there you're working 40 hours a week, you're salaried. It says with regards to your pay stub in concert with that W-2 that's the case. The challenge you definitely will be running into over the ramp back up once we get over this hump is companies may have already said, well, our bottom line will not substantiate bringing you back. And that's become and will become an underwriter's call, not to, again, panic people out there in the industry and panic people that are trying to buy a house. But that does become a legitimate question the underwriter can ask.
Yes.
Is there if you are an assistant manager at a restaurant, they may say, well, people are going to come back slowly to the restaurant. We can't really afford to pay you. We're going to lay you off. And if things get back on full loan, then we'll hire you back.
Our financial model is not sustainable at this time.
Exactly. So this is something that up till now, and that's why these are unprecedented times, underwriters have to consider the probability of continuance of employment.
And that's where the title income stability is coming from. We have to ask these questions. And this is why a lender gets to know you very well. You may think they're asking these questions to get too personal or, we're distancing ourselves from this. But understand, they're establishing something and realize it more often, well, almost every time, right before you sign, the day of closing, they are going to double-check everything in your file. What does that mean, Tom, for us? They're going to double check
pull your credit and check to see if you're still employed.
They're going to do that, and so with a job loss, the home file will not go through if suddenly there's a job loss on that. It's just not going to happen, or you've added debt to it. So that's income stability. The final area is asset affordability, and I think there's this where a lot of people may or may not understand, but most people in their minds have it down 20% down is what they're required to have. Well, that's not always true. Down payment assistance to different programs up to 5, even 3% are available for folks to be able to purchase a home. VA, USDA, it's 100% financing. But to have assets afford means you're able to help pay for all the closing costs. Included in there is also escrow fees. What does that mean? That means we actually buffer those setup profiles so that we already have your insurance, your taxes started off, and generally it's 3 months. Am I correct there, sir, Professor? In the escrows?
Normally 2 months. But
2 months?
It just depends upon the program as far as what they require. FHA, VA, USDA, all government loans require you don't have anything left over. I mean, they don't require it. They say you can have nothing left over.
Yes.
So I can take every dime from you, basically empty out your bank account and say, okay, well, you qualify for this house payment. Give me all your money. Now make your next payment.
Yeah.
So
that's not good.
So
well, that's where asset affordability comes in, and we always look at a thing that calls reserves. What does reserves mean in this situation?
Reserve simply is a reference to, and again, this is driven by product because government loans don't require it. But on a conventional program, depending on how much you put down, if you put down 20%, it's carte blanche. They don't really care how much you have left over. But if there is a reserve requirement because it's an investment property or you're putting down 3 or 5%, and the system says, and again, the system is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac saying back to us electronically, if they say you need 2 months, 3 months, it's in reference to how many months payments you need to have in reserve after you pay everything when you close.
You mortgage payment. So take that 1 month times the mortgage payment, or 2 or 3.
My monthly payment's going to be $1,000, and they say 3 months. I need $3,000
in the bank
after everything's done.
After you sign and walk in. Now, there's also a part of asset affordability you brought up specifically about different programs, FHA, VA, so forth. FHA has a requirement that the down payment must come from you individually or a gift or a down payment assistance. Well, it cannot come
your
from
own funds.
Your own funds.
Is what it says.
It's not coming from seller credit or lender credit or any other types of resources. That's why asset affordability is there. You're going to have to come up with this money, and so many people, if the down payment assistance is not available to you, you need to have those assets minimally at 3.5%. Am I correct there?
You would have to show that, yes.
So we have
your own funds.
Of your own funds, or a gift through
that's considered your own funds.
That is considered your own funds.
If it comes from a relative, the gift has to, however, come from a relative, domestic partner, or Beyonce. So it's one of those three.
Who?
Beyonce.
Beyonce?
Yeah. I'm sorry, fiance. I guess I said that wrong. But gotta have it from those sources. Maybe if you knew her, she would give it to you.
Yeah, maybe.
She can afford it.
She's on social media all the time, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. But
I think this is good information. I think, a lot of realtors need to hear it now and then, and because obviously we're on the front lines too, and you get asked these questions by clients, and I always advise the new realtors starting out, stay in your lane. Be good at real estate. Be good at, at finding and locating homes, showing homes, selling a home, getting a home fixed up to sell. Be good at that. And then know about finance. But stay in your lane. Let the lenders do the lending. Let them get involved with all the personal information Blair was talking about earlier. And it just takes a lot of the pressure off of a new realtor, somebody that's not been in the business long, and just let them do their part, and then you concentrate on what you're supposed to do.
And that's very good advice. These are confidential information in a lot of cases. You do need to be talking to somebody that, one, you trust, and two, has the need for it, because how you transfer that information, this is right now, identity theft is going on all over. So you need to be working with somebody that has the abilities to control and manage that information for you, with you. So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We're talking mortgage minutes for today in our vast new change world of Corona V, or I guess COVID-19.
COVID-19.
I wonder if Corona is I haven't seen a single advertisement for Corona yet. And I got to
Well,
be.
they don't need to.
right? Yeah, they don't.
They don't
I
need
know.
to.
I know. Why would you do that?
Well, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
3, 2, 1. KVGIRadio.com.
Y'all have really just opened my bubble and just.
KVGI Radio brings you conversation and entertainment. Be sure to follow us on social media. Who streams the best talk shows? We do.
You're listening to KVGIRadio.com. Streaming live from the KVGI studios in Frisco, Texas. Live with
After that at 101.
Hello and welcome to Welcome Home Radio with your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy. Luckily, Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, here are your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm.
And welcome back to Welcome Home Radio, your real estate lending and learning professionals. Again, we've got our real estate professional, Alan Pace with SWR Group, Keller Williams, your DD214 alumni lender, Blair Thomas, and of course, our wonderful learning expert, Professor Tom Hume with Champion School of Risk. Professor. I gave you a non-QM title.
Thanks.
I thought you could use it.
That's what I needed. Absolutely.
Hey, with all this negativity, guys, going on in the industry and a lot of question marks that are going to try to be answered, and again, I'm going to give you my quick viewpoint. I believe we're still on the uptick on this. Because we're testing more and more, I think the numbers are going to grow, but I think ultimately it's going to flatten out here probably in the first or second week of April, and then we're going to start having an understanding of where we're going and controlling from that. So, goodness gracious, we got this music issue today.
You guys ought to leave the studio and call in. It's nice.
It's nice and quiet, eh? You know, outside of the Big Bang theory of major change, the bottom line is the real estate market is where the most millionaires are, as well as it's one of the most stable investments anybody can make. Would you agree with that, Tom?
That is statistically very accurate.
Wow. I mean, we're not like CNN and MSNBC that give that false facts. Or Fox, even.
Any of them.
Yeah, we're kind of bipartisan here with Live Without Limits.
And I can give a good live example of a client recently, late last year.
Help us.
I helped him buy a home I helped him buy a home 3 years ago in the city of Louisville, and in 3 years we sold it, and because he wanted to upgrade, and he made about $42,000, and that's hard to do in a 401k. And you can do that in real estate.
It's
now.
very hard to do in a 401k.
Very hard if you're looking at them right now.
Yeah.
Right, but
Gosh,
that's my
make
point,
me
though.
sad, Alan. You're making me cry here. It's I've only lost six figures. It's no big deal.
But one of the key
But you
components.
got 6 figures to lose, and that's the
Oh, wow.
Good point.
Well,
Good
I have
point.
6 cents to lose, and that's about it.
I don't have any sense, period. I don't even know why I'm
Well, we kind
I
of
was
knew
going to
that.
say,
We
all
kinda-
three of us, how many cents do we have between us? It's like 6.
Hey, one of the things that we have as a key part of this is the learning, the education that goes into doing Alan's and my job. And I think it's very critical for people to understand what the educational level, the requirements, and that sort of thing. What Champions School of Real Estate does.
Well, I so much appreciate this little segue as far as talking about the educational process right now. Obviously, we're in the biggest deal with all of this is the disruption in the learning curve for our kids from kindergarten through adulthood. And this is one of those things that
Can't wait to get there.
yeah,
Adulthood,
I know
that
you're
is.
waiting for that. But
Puberty?
oh gosh, I think you're way past that, Mr. Harry Scruggs.
Blair, adulthood is way overrated, Blair.
Oh, is it?
Very
Can I
much
stay
so.
home with my parents?
Very much so.
Take your time.
Well, I'm happy I'm getting to speak on this subject. but
Hold on, I think Beyonce.
you're still stuck there with Beyonce. That's okay. But and being on a school board like I am and seeing the disruption, it also, and I actually wrote a little article about this that will be in the newspaper for my reelection campaign. But not that I'm plugging that at all today. But
what,
the
re-election?
Re-election. But as far as what we're seeing is this could be actually one of those prominent moments in education where we have taken measures to go to online learning.
Yep.
And there's a huge amount of that was already available. And the different platforms at different schools, we're seeing the differential between the haves and have-nots with regards to the technology that was in place and making the transition to allow the classroom teacher actually to be able to teach directly from their home. And as we see this evolution occur, which it's going to be really, really interesting, I think, the outcome, because as Americans, we usually don't like things to happen to us twice, even though we do cycle through and let things happen to us a lot twice, vis-a-vis my 401k again. But that bottom line becomes that we're going to have an opportunity here that we shouldn't miss to develop the methodologies where we can use the technology we've created on hand and at hand to make learning experiences vibrant through the internet and available for kids. But our classrooms at Champions, the thing that is so amazing with me is that our ownership and Kim and Rita, the people that are our directors and CEOs and owners, have immediately embraced getting to the learners that still need this education, the loan officers, the home inspectors, the realtors, all those people. The transition has been it's been difficult, but for the most part, if you were looking at it from a student standpoint, it's been fairly smooth. And by that I mean smooth referring to being able to get into the systems, get the educational class that you're missing, that you needed, have the opportunity to hear somebody live learner as well. And so to me, it's just amazing how much we were already set up in this world, the virtual world, to be able to continue teaching people and giving them the education and giving them the knowledge that they need to be able to go ahead and go forward and pursue this, and not them having to just totally say, well, I'll wait 6 months for my education. That doesn't work very well when you need it now.
No, waiting is never a good thing, I think, in any situation. I mean, to be perfectly honest, waiting, okay, we saw rates bounce last week.
If you want good wine or good scotch.
Well, I guess that's a reality we can all deal with, but,
To follow up on Tom's point, basically okay, I got an echo, so I'm going to quit talking.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
You sound fine on our end. It's your problem, not ours.
Turn us off on the PC.
Let me try that. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, sounds good. Yep.
Anyway, bottom line is something always good comes from tragedies like what we're going through right now. And technology will change, medicine will change, business travel is going to change, learning is going to change. Good comes from bad, especially in the United States of America. I mean, we figure these things out, we move forward, and I hopefully don't make the same mistakes twice. But good things will come from this, and I think Tom hit it right on the head with the education that needs to be ongoing, and because we're going to come out of this, and we're going to have to move forward. And I think a lot of good things are coming. It's just going to be a little rough for a while.
Well, there's a lot of questions.
Coming.
There's a lot of questions, and there's so much fear, and that's what I hope we're bringing some information that fear cannot take place or take a stake in the ground.
Because we're already seeing us make these adjustments.
We're already
seeing that we are resilient, very resilient.
Yes, we are.
And
absolutely.
And that is, I think, part of the major good that flows from this is that everybody is pitching in, and we did that at 9/11. We should do that every day of our lives instead of having to wait for these events. But
so we're again, if you could put our call banner phone in there. I think we've got a caller that just came in. Who do we have?
I hear somebody
trying. Hello.
Ring. Well,
it's
we got to pick it up.
We got to pick it up. I don't know how to pick it up. Hello.
There we go.
Hello.
Who do we have?
Hey, is this Blair?
Hey, David. How are you?
Guys.
How are you? Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're having a wonderful day here.
Super
keeping our social
hunky-dory.
distance from each other.
Is Tom practicing social distancing?
No, Alan's really practicing social distancing.
more so. But Blair didn't try to kiss me or anything, so that's a good thing.
Thank goodness.
Too. I know. Ugh.
What can I help you? Hey, turn down your internet there so we don't hear that.
Okay.
What's your question?
Yeah, so, hey guys, thank you for what you're doing today. It's a great topic, a conversation. I'm actually doing some homeschooling myself through the Coppell ISD.
Way cool.
Oh, don't make the president feel good. Come on.
No, it's nice to hear that some of our efforts are working.
Hey, so I do have a couple of questions for you from a mortgage and a realtor viewpoint.
Okay.
So I've got two mortgage guys right here in front of me. Refis are real big right now, right?
Yep.
So I've been talking to my clients. Some of them are, have talked about refinancing, and others are trying to buy a home. So I know you're prioritizing the current, home shoppers out there that are trying to get a mortgage.
Yep.
What are the wait times that you're seeing right now? What could I realistically set? What kind of expectations should I be setting with my clients?
Well, generally, I think a lot of the industry leaders set their priorities, and they try to give certain dates in the following month as key closing dates for them. So if you're looking, you start looking today, you put in a refi, you're probably not going to close until like the 15th of next month. And if you're putting in a little later, it's going to possibly even roll into the following month. If you started at first of the month, it's definitely going to be the 6th or so of the following month. So you're seeing 30 to 45 days on refis, definitely below 30 days on purchases is what we see and what we're able to attain.
I'll also mention this, that I don't think there's a lender out there worth their salt that would take a refinance right now and not lock it on a 60-day price, simply
Okay.
because with so much volatility out there, to be safe rather than sorry. What happens is, and we saw this as
Last week.
As Blair mentioned in his introduction. I was trying to correct it before I went ahead and said it wrong.
You said it anyway.
I said it anyway. But as Blair mentioned, I mean, when we see 200 and 300 basis point changes up and down, I mean, that's way too volatile to not just go ahead, lock it in, and give some guarantees for 60 days in order to make sure that people get the rate that they've been promised.
Or you need to be talking to somebody that is definitely watching the rates every day and able to call and lock in at the rate you desire as soon as possible. If they're not attentive to that, you can miss it, because literally yesterday we hit our March 9th number for almost 30 minutes, and then it changed dramatically. It went back up real quick, and I literally was able to get a loan locked during that period of time. But yes, refis and purchases are both, and right now, again, it's still a great market for it. We're still in industry lows, so in looking at real estate, it is the number one tool to help become millionaires. So that is an option.
What's your second question?
Yeah,
my second question is this. So how would you advise us realtors out here when we get calls from clients and they hear that the Fed just lowered the rates, and they automatically assume that the mortgage rates are going to drop?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
So how would you best advise, us realtors out there when we're trying to counsel our clients, when they see the Fed dropping the rates like they did the other day, and then we start getting calls, are the mortgage rates going to drop?
Well, as in my introduction, we talk about the Fed does not directly or almost not indirectly impact mortgage-backed securities. Now, the Fed did promise to be purchasing bonds as well as T-bills going in, so that is going to help us prop up a few items, but we really, as an industry, want to get away from that because we want investors back in the market purchasing these mortgage-backed securities. So, we're not going to see a dramatic change, I think, in the sense of we're going to see up and down volatility, but we're not going to see 4.5, 5 for a while. I think it's going to stay low for a long period of time. But if you want to really maximize, you've got to be working with your lender to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm targeting. You go ahead and lock it when you see it. You don't have to call me or confirm with me. And that gives a flexibility to be able to work with that lender in a personal way so that they're able to do their job and it's not waiting. Because if I would have had to wait on my client to get back with me, we would have missed yesterday. We would have missed it totally. And so the opportunity is working with that lender closely and understanding your priorities, your goals in this. And we may not reach that. And it may be, he may advise, hey, we're not going to see this for another week. That's what we're being told. But again, it's so volatile right now. You're taking a swag, as we call it, a scientific wild-ass guess at where you can get to. And that's where, refinancing. But purchasing, I will be honest, that's new people into the market, or somebody that sold a home and buying a new one. That's a new investor. They're going to get some of the best rates available ever. Not just industry level. And
on the education side, I mean, it's hard to be an economics professor for your clients. I mean, just bottom line. When people ask me, the best response I have is that the Federal Reserve just basically is not tied to mortgage-backed securities. And if you can say those two things in there, that gives them enough. You don't want to poo-poo anybody asking, but if they ask more about that, then go ahead and read more about mortgage-backed securities, and they're driven by investors wanting the product versus everybody wants the product of the Fed that has a major line of credit like Toyota and Ford and their member banks. And as our wonderful real estate professional with us, Alan, says, a lot of times just stay in your lane.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's what I try to do. And I tell them, contact your favorite mortgage lender. Of course,
Wait a minute. You contact Blair Thomas, right?
You're on the list.
I'm on a list. I made the short list. Hey, guys,
You're
March
in the top 5, Blair.
Oh, top 5. I thought it was at least in the top 2. I mean,
top 10.
I'm going to have to work on that.
I just want to be in the top 10.
Hey, guys, it's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Blair Thomas.
And I'm Tom Holm.
Did we lose Alan?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, David.
You're very welcome.
Alan, did we lose you?
That's okay.
Oh, that's who was calling back in?
And I'm Alan Pace.
And I'm Alan Pace.
So.
And I'm Alan Pace. Alan, you there?
Yeah, that kind of sucked at the end. I got kicked out.
Well,
we're so sorry.
We're so sorry. Professor Albert.
Stupid John Wayne Western music.
Hey, guys, have a blessed day. Watch your market, wash your hands, and we're going to get through this together. God bless. Thanks for calling in, Alan.
Yeah, good show, you guys.
Yep.
Thanks, Al.
Y'all take care.
See you, Tom. I'll keep an eye out.
Sid, can you give us some information? That was just following us on there. Is that KVGI